I was so excited to get my shipment from Last Bottle Wines in the mail the other day, full of incredible red wines all from Napa Valley. I love wine tasting, so having this to my door couldn't be happier. Also, couldn't be more excited that today's episode is brought to you by Last Bottle Wines. If you don't know already, they're a Napa-based online wine shop with a twist. They offer just one handpicked wine per day until it sells out, and they're always at incredible prices. We're talking 30 to 70% off retail. And the best part is that there's no subscriptions, no fees, and no minimum purchase. And I could not be more excited to bring this offer right now because they're having a marathon sale, which is coming up March 28th and 29th. Even better, we're offering Dateable listeners 10% off your first order with code DATEABLE. So if you are a wine lover like me, this is a great time to join. And did I mention that shipping is 100% free? So what are you waiting for? Mark your calendar for March 28th and 29th, or get on it earlier if you want. You can sign up at lastbottlewines.com and use code DATEABLE and find out why Last Bottle is the most fun way to discover and buy amazing wine.
This episode is made possible by Badlands Pets. As you all know, Mojo, my precious baby, is the reason why I found love in the first place. He made me feel love again. So I would do anything to ensure his health and longevity. And actress Katherine Heigl and I have that in common. She's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation. And after doing a ton of research, she feels there's one place we can look to improve any dog's health, and that's their food. So fortunately, she found that just by adding a few special superfoods to her dog's food, she saw huge transformations in their health. So she's made a 20-minute video explaining step-by-step how anyone can do the same thing to see incredible changes in their dog's health. I've definitely re-looked at what I'm feeding Mojo and making sure that, hey, he only has one life to live, and I want to make sure it's the best damn life. So if you want to keep your dog healthy and happy, go to badlandsfood.com/dateable and watch Catherine's video right now. Again, that's badlandsfood.com/dateable.
The Dateable podcast features real stories from real people of how they make modern dating work, or not. I'm your host, Yue, former dating coach turned dating insider, if you will. On each episode, you'll hear commentary from my producer, Julie Kraftchick, and other surprise co-hosts. This episode of Dateable is brought to you by 500 Brunches. 500 Brunches connects like-minded people with similar interests to meet in real life over brunch. You answer a quick questionnaire about your interests and how you spend your time, and then they'll match you in small groups of 6 to 8 at a brunch spot in San Francisco. Get a free entry into a brunch now by signing up at 500brunches.com and using the code DATEABLE. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Dateable, a show all about modern dating. Our guest today is an encore guest. She was on a previous episode called The Bathroom Veil, if you remember from season 4. Her name is Melissa. And she's back because we're here about another topic that's just equally as disastrous. We're talking about this idea of a rock bottom. What does that mean? Have you ever had a moment in your life when it comes to dating where you were like, okay, something needs to change here. I need to do something different with my life and how I date. And this can't happen again. Melissa apparently has a story. And just a little refresher. Melissa is in her 30s, originally from New Jersey. She's lived in San Francisco for 13 years, and she's currently single and on a bit of a dating sabbatical. I wonder if that's because of her rock bottom moment, but we'll find out very shortly. Hi, Melissa.
Hey. How's it going?
How would you define rock bottom moment in dating?
I think you hit the nail on the head there. It usually ends up in tears and the decision that maybe you should be making better life choices.
I think we can all relate to that one.
So I'm ready to hear your story.
Okay, well, this starts off as any good rock bottom story starts off with a crush that I had on a guy that was probably about, maybe around 10 years my junior, who I met on a party bus going to a water park.
That's always a good start.
So it was somewhere in my 30s. I think it was like 30s, time flies when you're making terrible life choices. And on a party bus to Waterworld. So already great life trajectory right there. And he just wasn't that into me, and you know how that goes. And so I was out drinking, day drinking all day, and he shows up at the bar. And, it's awkward, but I'm still like trying to hang out.
So this is after Waterworld.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was after Waterworld, and we had gone on like one date, and, it just wasn't going anywhere.
So how long after Waterworld?
Probably like a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Some time had passed.
Yeah. So, so he shows up at the bar that we were watching some sports game, and it's kind of awkward, but like he doesn't tell me, but I hear through the group we're going to this house party. So of course I like follow him. And I'm at this house party, and I don't know really anyone. I mean, I know some of the people that were at the bar that went to this party. We're not like really interacting, but it's just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Again, I don't know what I'm doing with my life or what. So he leaves the party without even like saying goodbye, of course. And so I'm like distraught. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm no idea where I am at this party with these random people. So I'm like, I'm gonna leave. Okay. So I walk out of the party, and again, I'm pretty drunk, so I have no idea where I am. There's some random guy standing in the middle of the street, and he says, hey, my roommate fell asleep and my apartment's locked and my phone is up in my apartment. So I have no way of like getting in touch with him or getting in. He has to use my phone, and of course his roommate didn't pick up. I was like, you know what? Whatever. I'm in the mood to like turn this night around, right? So I said, why don't you just text him? And we'll go get a drink and see if he texts back,
Dang, okay.
Yeah.
On the street.
Yeah, in the middle of the street, random guy.
Best way to meet a guy.
Yeah. And it couldn't get any worse, right?
Well, clearly it can.
That's what I was thinking at the time. So we have a drink, and his roommate actually does finally like call back. And we end up going back to his place, and I end up hooking up as one does with a random stranger on a street. So obviously it wasn't even like worth it, because I don't even remember whether we slept together. I'm sure we did, but whatever. And that's something that I normally don't do either. I don't normally don't even know a guy's name and have like a one night stand. That's like totally
from the street.
But to be fair, you had a drink first.
A few drinks with him. Yes. With him.
Okay.
So you kind of went on a
few
date.
drinks the whole day, and then a few drinks with him. Yes. So, whatever, we hook up. And then in the middle of the night, I have to go to the bathroom. And again, not my best decision. I go completely buck naked out to the bathroom. He has several roommates. And I walk out of the bathroom, and it's like one of those typical San Francisco railroad apartments.
Oh, God.
So there are like 4 doors, 2 on left side, 2 on the right side, 4 choices. No idea which one's his. Still naked, totally naked. So I'm like, all right, let's see what's behind door number 1. Not his bedroom. Not his bedroom.
Did he wake up, or the person in door 1?
Oh yeah, it was a couple, and the girl was like, "What the hell?" Like the girl, definitely flipped out about the door being open. I was like, "You're naked." Oh yeah. So I don't know what to do. I run into the living room. So now I'm crouching behind the couch. Totally naked.
Were you still like drunk too?
Yeah, I wouldn't have gone out in this like random guy's house totally naked if I wasn't drunk. So I'm like, I remember this moment, like sitting, like crouching behind the couch, naked, being like, oh my, if this guy finds me, what is
naked and afraid?
Yeah, exactly. Luckily, the guy just like opened this door and I guess like looked down the hallway and didn't see me. So I was like, okay. Whew. So
it's probably like, what happened to her? She's been gone forever.
You just bathroom bailed him.
Yeah. You heard like
this is the
shrieks coming from the other room.
This was the guy whose door I like opened. He came out.
Okay. The couple. Part of the couple.
Yes, part of the couple.
Okay, so they're probably like, who is this?
Not your guy.
I heard him like open the door, and that's when I was like, like, please don't come in here. No. See, the guy I was with wasn't fancy enough to have a door, which I remembered after. He was at the end of the hall behind a curtain, so no doors there. I didn't get one of the fancy guys. I got
You didn't get a door.
I got the old end of the hallway bed at the end of the hallway behind a curtain.
Converted closet.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So I go back, I get back into bed with this guy, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I think the sheets are wet, I'm like, and then I'm like elbowing him, and I'm like, hey, and I'm like, I think you peed the bed. And,
Oh my God.
and he was like, no, I didn't. I'm like, yeah, you did. It's like, no, that was you. I was like, no, that wasn't me, because I just went to the bathroom like every normal person does in the toilet.
And it wasn't wet when you left.
No, it wasn't. So he's like, no, that wasn't me. That was you, and then I got all CSI on his ass, and I was like, flipped on the lights, and I'm like, do you see the trajectory? See how it's like the wet spot's in like a cone shape, whereas if it was me, it would just be like a puddle.
Oh my God.
Like, so clearly, and the guy's like denying it the whole time. I was like, you know what? I'm just going. I'm just going to leave,
What time was it right now?
Oh, God. It was like, I don't know.
I love that. That's when you left.
Yeah.
When he peed the bed.
I had
enough.
your clothes.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. You gotta get back in there.
Right. And then like I'm like going to put on my clothes, and I like go to put on my sock. This one's wet. I'll leave this one with you. So I'm like leaving one sock like in my hand, one sock
Oh my God.
on his room, get in my Uber, cry the whole way home.
Did you just put like drop pin because you probably didn't know what location you were at?
Or just magically showed up.
Whatever. Yeah, you find my location, whatever it is. So that was the moment when I was like, okay.
There's a lot of rock bottoms in this one story.
There's a lot of
I
rock
love it.
bottoms in this one story that culminates to the ultimate rock bottom when I decided that maybe it was time to stop chasing 25-year-olds because at the end of that tunnel is a guy who pees the bed and blames it on you.
So how did you actually find his room? Process of elimination, or did you just like...
Well, you finally
I
remembered that it was a curtain.
Yeah, I think
not
I
a door.
remembered because I was like, oh yeah, I didn't actually open a door. That would be
Got it. I know that was clearly a very important part, but I was like, how did you get out of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's all very fuzzy, but I think I remember seeing the curtain at the end of the hallway, and I was like, oh yeah.
If you ran into this guy on the street today, would you recognize him?
Not even.
Yeah, you don't know his name, right?
I couldn't pick him out of a lineup. I couldn't.
Do you have still no recollection of like where you were?
I was probably somewhere in the marina. I think I was
Okay.
on Union Street partying. Again, another terrible life decision.
But if his pee was presented to you in a lineup, would you recognize his pee?
I'd probably recognize the trajectory of the piece.
What was his reaction like when you left?
I don't even know. I don't remember. I just remember being like, I am out of here. Like, this is, I'm done. So I think he was like trying to be like, oh, give me your number or whatever. And I was like, no.
I feel like I just saw your pee now.
Yeah,
That
no.
ship has
I just
sailed.
slept in your pee. Thanks.
Right. Well, and I think the worst part was that he tried to blame it on me,
Right.
especially since I had literally just gone to the bathroom.
So I guess like from this experience, I know you said it's like a rock bottom, but what in the future would you do different? And how are you feeling the next day?
Where did you
Maybe
go
that's
wrong?
the next question. How are you feeling the next day?
Like, what am I doing with my life? It's just very out of character for me to meet a rando on the street whose name I don't even know and sleep with him to begin with, and then
Well, you don't even know if you slept with him.
right.
Which is also a rock bottom.
Right.
That is a rock bottom.
It definitely wasn't even worth it,
He had no door. I mean, that's another rock bottom.
Yeah,
Check.
Everything about it. I would say that would have been my lesson to learn to stop chasing younger boys, but that is not yet one that I've learned.
Not until they
years
pee on
later,
you. That's
later.
the end. That's the end.
I feel like once this episode airs, we're gonna find this guy. I feel like this is probably gonna be some
my
sort
God.
of legendary story that
He's been telling his friends about
or
his
his-
rock bottom.
or his couple roommate has been telling
Oh, yeah.
about this naked
Totally.
girl appeared in the middle of the
Totally.
night.
He's like, the rock bottom was when I peed all over the bed and I tried to put it on her.
No, or he still thinks that you peed the bed.
Yeah. He's like a random girl I met on the street peed in my bed.
My logic was solid about the pee trajectory. I mean, I almost had like a black light out on the sheets.
Oh my
Like I was really
God.
making my case.
No,
So
I
don't-
mean, I believe you since you went to the bathroom. There's no way.
Yeah. I mean, I think rock bottoms and dating and hookups could mean a lot of things,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of times, at least from personal experience too, it has stemmed from alcohol consumption.
Of course.
I know one of my personal moments when I was like, fuck, I gotta do something different, was I would go on dates and just get like wasted. I went on this date on like a Monday night.
Is this your rock bottom story?
I
Are
guess
you
so.
gonna tell it?
I
Okay,
guess
so we're
so.
sharing her rock
And then we're
bottom
gonna
story.
hear UAs. If I share, you share.
I'm so ready.
So I remember going out on a date on a Monday night, which is already like, what are you doing? And just got like hammered. Like we like hit it off in that moment, but just got fucked up. And I remember going to Tonic, a bar, after we had like drank like two
Tonic
bottles.
is always a good
I know,
place
two
to go
bottles
to.
of wine at this other place, and it was like 2 for 1 because it was a Monday night. And instead of us sharing 2 drinks, we both got 2 drinks. So anyways, like long story short, he ended up coming back to my house. I also totally blacked out. I think we slept together. I'm not even fully sure. I actually ran into this guy years later, and he reminded me that we took a shower together, which I also totally blacked out. I'm sure my roommate at the time loved that at like 2 a.m. on a Monday. And then the only thing I remember from the whole thing is him being like, "Do you do this often?"
Oh,
And I was
God.
like, fuck. But I've run into him multiple times, and I did tell him he was my rock bottom moment that made me stop drinking so much on dates. And his reaction was kind of like, I don't know what to say to that. And I'm like, thank you
You're
for being
welcome.
my rock bottom moment.
How did the whole thing end?
Oh yeah, so then of course that night he was like, "Oh, we're going on another date. We're like planning our future together on this date." Okay. Next
Naming our
day,
kids.
don't hear from him, of course. Then I text him, never hear back. So
Yeah.
then years later, I ran into him and called him out, or he like approached me, and I was like, "Do you know who I am?" And he's like, "Of course." And then I like called him out for it, and yeah, we had this whole
At least you
conversation.
recognized him.
Oh, I recognized him as soon as I saw him. It was like one of those moments I was like, ugh, my rock bottom guy.
How'd you meet him?
Tinder, of course.
But you remember his name, you remember his face.
I do. I won't disclose it on the air, but I do remember his name and face.
He didn't pee on you, as far as we know.
And I see him at the same Halloween party every year, which I plan not to go to this year. Okay,
All right,
anyway, you're up to bat.
You know, it's like it's like you said, alcohol is always an instigator, and this is when Tinder, what was it called?
Tinder Social.
Tinder Social was just released, and it was group dating, right? Groups of friends can match with other groups of people. So Julie was part of this group.
Oh my God, yes, I remember this.
We had just matched with a bunch of dudes on Tinder, done tons of groups of dudes. And in the course of that, I was also swiping on individual profiles, okay?
Double
Two.
Tindering.
Double Tindering.
Day drinking all day to
Yes.
add to it.
Yes. And I remember just swiping, and match with someone. And we were so drunk by this point. I was like, okay, I'm going to start talking to this dude. And he's turned out to be a really nice guy. So I, of course, invited him out.
We invited them all to the same bar.
Oh, yeah.
too,
We invited them all to Nikki's.
Nikki's in the lower
Nikki's in the lower
like 10
Haight.
groups of dudes.
Yes. And we were all wasted. And I didn't remember if I told him that I was Tinder socialing or not. I just remember saying, you should come out. And all I remember our conversation was him being like, I'm a scientist. I don't usually get out. This is like not a usual thing I do on a first date for Tinder, but you seem like a nice girl. I don't know how, but I want to meet you. So I'm like, okay. By the time he shows up, I'm pretty much cross-eyed at this point. Like, I don't remember anything. I was so wasted, and only like a few of us were left over because I think
in one random group of Tinder social guys that made it out.
Guys,
did you guys get a lot of?
We matched with a shit ton, and only one showed up.
Yeah,
all right,
which is kind of normal, right? Because we're just random girls. We're like, come to Nikki's.
I just remember there was a lot of Giphies and come to Nikki's.
Yes,
that was the situation.
Yes. So he shows up and he's completely sober and he sees me in my state
I think
of
it was
being.
like 9 o'clock. It was like pretty.
It was pretty early because we had been day drinking. And he looks at me, he's like, I guess I should catch up. I'm like, yeah. And so, of course, in him catching up, I'm also drinking with him. So I just get more obliterated as more girlfriends drop out. And by the end, it's literally me, another girlfriend, and the two random Tinder social guys who are like vying for her attention. And my dude. At some point, everybody clears out, and I'm just full on making out with this guy. And I just hear him the whole time saying, I don't normally do this. This is not a normal thing for me. And do you do this often? Same question. Do you always do this with Tinder dates? You're one of my first Tinder dates. Is this what happens on Tinder? Like, he had so many questions. And I was like, just shut up and make out with me. So at the end, I grab his hand and I was like, we're going back to my place. And I'm pretty much naked by the time I get in. And not by him doing anything. I just decided to take all my clothes off. And he has all his clothes on. And we're full on making out. And I'm just like, let's just go, all the way. First of all, you guys don't remember if you slept with your guys. I specifically remember him rejecting me and wanting to sleep with him. He's like, no, I just don't think we're on the same level right now, and I'm not going to do anything with you. So I pass out. I just remember being like, I'm so tired. I pass out and I wake up to him over me with a wet cloth, just dabbing my face. And I'm like, what is going on? Did he come on my face? I don't know. Like, something really nasty happened. But there's blood everywhere. And I'm like, why is there blood on my face? And he's like, well, funny story. We were making out and you passed out and then you started snoring. And then you woke yourself up from your snore, and I guess it agitated you somehow where your elbow flew out of the blanket and hit me in the face and gave me a bloody nose. He's in the course of like wiping my face down, and I'm just like, I can't believe this, but I'm still like, let's do this.
Oh my God.
He's like, no, this is definitely not. I'm definitely not going to sleep with you now. He finishes cleaning up my face and didn't have any of his clothes off, so I can't even say he was putting his clothes on. He takes his keys and his phone, and he looks at him, he goes, worst Tinder date ever, and then just leaves. But the best part of this is after this happened, because I remember having a really great connection with him. In my mind, we had an amazing night. So the next day, I'm still texting him.
As every rock bottom.
I remember just texting him and being like, oh my gosh, I thought we had so much fun. Did you have fun? And he's like, I don't know. Before or after the bloody nose, I don't know. So we're having a conversation and he's like still not asking me out. And I remember just like being super bitchy and being like, do you want this to go somewhere or not? If not, just say something. And he goes, I guess not. And then that was all. And we just stopped talking then. Well, the most interesting part of this is that this happened 2.5 years ago. Earlier this year, I reached out to him, or I passively followed him on Instagram.
Because you haven't been stalking him all this time.
Because in my mind, I had such a great connection with this guy. Why did it never go anywhere? And so 2.5 years later, naturally, when you think about your rock bottoms, I passively follow him on Instagram, and he messages me right away, DMs me, and he's like, you do realize that we went on a date together many years ago. I was like, I was really drunk, so let's go play by play of what happened. And we had totally different impressions of what happened that night.
Really?
To him, he showed up and I was already drunk. So he already made up his mind that he wasn't going to sleep with me the minute he saw me. And then he said, we had a really fun night. He doesn't remember getting the bloody nose from me. He thought he just got it naturally from the stress at work and also just a lot of other things going on in his life.
Yeah.
So what added to the stress was the next day, me bitching him out for not taking action. So to him, the rock bottom was more how I reacted the next day.
Interesting.
Which made him not respect me or like me. It was a really negative experience because of what happened the next day. So it was interesting getting clarity about that.
Though regardless, like when you're just so fucked up and like making these decisions, like you said, Melissa, like that you would never do in 1,000 years, like that is time to take inventory on what is going on.
Yes.
Exactly.
And you don't know how you affect the other person because he told me after that date, he like called up a friend of his. It was like, I'm deleting all my apps. And that's what he did.
Well,
Poor
yeah.
guy.
I remember like my roommate at the time being like, you need to like seriously like not drink so much on dates. Like cap it at 2 drinks max. Like you cannot be like getting blackout drunk on like a Monday night on a first date.
Well, and for me, it was also like you should never let a guy affect you so much that you're gonna like, because like mine all stemmed from this stupid crush that like didn't work out, and he completely affected my my mood and like my behavior and
your self-esteem.
Like,
and it was like almost like you were looking for validation from this random.
Yeah, you want to be like, I'm so desirable. Yeah,
this random on the street wants me.
I mean,
he could be homeless.
It wasn't even that. It was just like, maybe this will turn my night around.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. So what else can we learn from these rock bottom experiences other than the fact that they do make very entertaining stories after the fact? I've been telling this story at dinner parties for years now because I'm like, it's a very humbling experience for a girl, okay?
I think like what's the root? Like you were just saying, like is there something beyond just like, oops, I got a little too drunk? Or like for me, I think maybe it was like I was nervous on dates, so I would turn to alcohol and drink more on dates because I'd feel more ease and like I wasn't able to just make that connection sober. Yeah. So it's like actually from that, like through like 500 brunches and other things, I did like a lot more social activities that didn't require alcohol. Because I think like so much of like my past was going to bars and meeting randoms and hooking up, and it's like there's better ways to make connections. So
I guess it just depends on what you're looking for. If that point in my life I thought I was looking for a serious relationship, but I obviously did not give off that impression.
Right.
If a guy's coming into a date and I'm obliterated, that's not a serious image that I'm putting out there. So really thinking about what exactly you want and how you can best present yourself in that manner. The other things I want to talk about would be like, okay, let's talk about this whole drinking thing. Drinking on dates. We've talked about this before. It's so much easier to meet up for a drink or 5. Yeah. And then and you do feel that liquid courage. I actually find the other person more attractive once I start drinking.
And I think it's the setting too. There's something about like a dim bar where you're sitting side by side opposed to like a coffee shop where it's light and you're across the table. It just like lends itself to a more like conducive setting to have a connection.
Yeah. So how can we get around that? Or is this something we need to get around? Is it just more about control? It's time to take a quick break so we can tell you about the latest service we have been building over here at Dateable. We've created a platform to connect you with vetted experts from our network to help with everything from coaching with dating, therapy, dating profile reviews, and even ways to get real feedback about your dating style. The sessions typically run from 30 minutes to an hour and can all be done via Skype or Google Hangouts, so you can be anywhere. Listeners have been sharing how worthwhile their sessions have been with comments about how easy the coaches are to talk to, how they have provided a new perspective, and how they have created actionable ways to inspire change. To meet the coaches and book your session today, visit dateablepodcast.com/coaching. Now back to the show. Is it just more about control?
I think it's control. I think like know your limits. There's no reason we should have done, in my case, done 2 for 1 individually. Like that should have why was that even something we were doing, right? Like I could have also cut it after that first bar. Like there was no need to continue. I think sometimes like when you're in the moment, it's hard because you're like, this is so fun and having such a good time. I want to keep it going. Yeah. But maybe it's having a little bit of that control that you're like, I feel the alcohol creeping in. I don't want to like do something I regret. Maybe I should cut it now. And then if it's meant to be, I'll see this person again.
And a lot of times drinking is sort of a nervous reflex in a way. You feel like you need to be doing something with your hands or doing something in general.
Right.
So it takes up time. A friend of mine said you should do each sip of a drink, match that with a sip of water, and that elongates your drink or the time you spend drinking that drink.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good advice, I would say. And then you don't get as drunk as fast.
Yep.
Or set a limit, 2-drink rule or something like that. I mean, especially if it's a first date, you know?
Yeah.
You want to keep them wanting more, right?
Right. And you can also, like, I know that I had a date actually not that long ago that the guy said he only wanted to have 1 drink.
Mm-hmm.
And then he, like, left really early. So it was, like, kind of weird. So I think my thought to him, and I said this, was, like, you could have had, like, a water or something. Like, you can do other things to, like, keep the convo going. It doesn't need to be as black and white as, like, I only need 2 drinks. Exit, or do like 1 drink water, 1 drink, like to like spread it out a little.
I think for all of our stories, I think there are moments that we could have identified that could have prevented us from spiraling downwards. So I think we can go around and identify where that moment would be. I think my moment was probably the minute I grabbed his hand and made him go back to my place with me. I think that if I had stopped that, I don't think we would have spiraled.
Like I said, mine's a little bit different. It's less about the drinking and more about like chasing guys that don't like me and then having that affect my mood and like my actions. So I should have never like gone to that party, followed the guy there. I mean, like it's not like he invited me. I like followed him with the group of people that were going only for him. So for me, it was like, all right, you got to stop finding guys that don't like you, going after them, and then having that completely affect your actions and your mood, you know?
Yep.
And you just said something interesting to me was when you saw the guy on the street, you thought, maybe this could turn my night around, which is actually giving control over to someone else to turn your night around. When you are in control of your thoughts and feelings, right?
True.
So the time we relinquish that power to someone else, you're bound to probably spiral downwards somehow, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like a hard thing to say because I think just some of it is... I think you have to have these moments because
you do.
You learn from them. Like, I think hypothetically, you can be like, don't drink as much on a date. But then until it happens and you're just like, oh my God, I don't even know if I hooked up with someone or not. And I apparently was taking a shower with them and don't remember that at all. Like, then you're like, oh, like, what am I doing? So I guess to your question of what the point was, I don't know what mine was. It clearly just kept spiraling.
I think the 2 for 1.
Yeah, the 2 for 1.
Probably. I think before then it was like over. I think that was like it kept going, but not controlling myself was probably the biggest thing.
Yeah. And what were some of the actions? We did talk about how you changed how you dated afterwards, but what are some of the specific actions? I remember I did delete all my apps after that and thought I don't want to show my face ever again. But I also thought there were some ways that I could enjoy myself better as opposed to like thinking that getting male attention was what I needed in a night to make me feel good.
Yep. That's a good one. I think for me, like I mentioned earlier, was like being in more social settings that didn't require as much alcohol or any alcohol and like kind of getting up confidence that way and not relying on it as much.
Yeah, I mean, for me, actually, you were talking about how I'm on a dating sabbatical. And I think one of the reasons I am is because I still struggle with this letting a guy completely like control my emotions or like even if you know, if I'm dating someone, whether he texts or not, like that has such an effect over how my day goes, how I'm feeling. And I like made a decision. I'm like, I don't want, as you were saying, anyone to control how I'm feeling or my emotions anymore. Like, I don't want to, you know, have this based on what somebody else's actions are. Like,
totally.
I know, it's so hard to do because someone could make or break your day, but when they make your day, it feels so damn good. It's like a drug. You're addicted to it. So you keep wanting that. It's a hard thing to do, but it's
And it's also, it like turns it around so much. You could be like so down about like, I haven't heard from him yet. And then like all of a sudden, as soon as you do, it's like, woo!
Yeah.
Now
All's
I'm up.
forgiven.
It's
Yeah.
true,
And that's
though.
what I hated.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to go through that anymore. Like
Totally. Well, it's good that you like had moments like this to realize that, like, this is a problem. And that's what the point of rock bottom is,
Yes.
right? It's to be like, I need to change something. Like, I can't keep repeating this.
I would love to find Melissa's rock bottom. Julie and I both have confronted our rock bottoms. That is my goal in life, to find Melissa's rock
I've
bottom.
seen my rock bottom way too many times. I'm just gonna put that out there.
But it'd be great to get his perspective,
could not
and
pick him out in a lineup.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he remembers.
I will say
this
though,
story.
like my rock bottom, when we reconnected, he was like, because I called him out for like ignoring my text, and he's like, "We're gonna go on a date tomorrow for brunch," and he did follow through.
Oh, good.
So, but I
did you
didn't
get-
go because
Did you get his side of the story? Like UA got his side of the story?
I think
Did
he
you
just
get-
thought I was like young and a hot mess. Like
Yeah.
I think that's really what it was. Like I don't think like like I think he just like thought I was super immature.
Yeah.
Mm.
And he thought I was like way younger than I was, which I don't think was a compliment. But anyways, what are some of our takeaways from this whole discussion about rock bottom?
Oh boy. First of all, go have a rock bottom.
Yes.
Yes.
I think everyone needs to. Like, you know how like everyone's like been in like that bad situation that they're like, I'm never gonna do this again. I think you need this.
But when you do have a rock bottom, identify it, as opposed to being
Yes.
like, "Oh, that was just a bad night." No, when you have your rock bottom, you gotta first admit it is a rock bottom, and then you gotta
Right.
learn from it. I think some of my takeaways would be again, we're all like on a journey, and sometimes you meet people at a place where they're not at their best, and we just have to forgive them for where they are. We're all works in progress. I'm actually really grateful that my rock bottom was able to forgive me in his memories of how I presented myself that night. But we also have to treat others that way when it comes to dating. You don't know what people are going through.
Right. I don't know if it's a takeaway, but I want to commend these men that don't take advantage of women when they've been tricky a lot. Because I've actually also had that situation. Not my rock bottom, but close to it. Where a guy turned me down because I was too drunk. So I think that kind of goes to my second point of like a rock bottom doesn't necessarily have to be one incident. It could be a few leading up, or one that like, I think like for me at least, the one that I remember, it's not per se like if that happened in a vacuum and that was like a one-off, I'd be like, oh, what did I do? But it may not have been a rock bottom. I think it was because there was a series of other ones before it that weren't as extreme, but like still there was like something I needed to resolve. So I think it's identifying, like if you have a moment, looking at like what else is going on. And I think the point we made too is like, what is the deeper thing? Are you feeling insecure? Are you feeling like X, Y, and Z? And look at that, not just like, oh shit, I drank too much, but what is driving me to drink that much on dates?
Okay.
Yeah. Just not going after guys that are clearly not into it, not forcing it, it should happen naturally. And then if it doesn't work out or if something doesn't go my way, then not trying to either fix it with other actions or, let it affect my mood, how I feel, and what I do afterwards.
Yeah.
So.
I think it all comes down to self-respect from all of ours. It's like, do I respect the decision I made last night? Like if I was to tell like my like brother or sister about it, like would I be like cringing or would I be like okay with my life choices?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, mine wasn't like a conscious like, oh, this guy's gonna like make me feel good.
Right.
Mine was just like, what else am I doing? Why
Exactly.
not? Like,
But I
I'll
think
have
it's
a drink
good
with
that
this
you
guy.
can relate it back to those feelings
right,
later because you're
right.
like, oh, like actually that was what was driving it. In the
Yeah.
moment, I didn't think it.
Right.
Usually in the moment, you're not thinking is the
Right,
problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'll just go have a drink with this guy. Why not? Did not know that it would end up with, the way it did.
Cool. Well, do we have time for a quick question of the day?
Yeah, let's do it. This question comes from Raquel. She says, I want to meet men out in real life, but I'm also concerned putting myself in a dangerous situation as a woman. How can you balance being open but also being safe?
Yeah, this is a good one, especially like from what you said, Melissa, about like meeting someone on the street. I think you got relatively lucky that all he did was pee. But in the scheme of things, it could have been worse when you think about it. So this is a tough one. I think one, like to what we were saying, is watch your alcohol levels. Like make sure that you're alert enough.
Yeah, and also always meet out in public places. Don't take them home with you if you don't really know them that well.
I don't know. I feel like meeting someone in real life is less risky than on an app, because you can actually like get a better feel for, you know, the person that they are versus like who knows who this person is at the end of this app.
Yeah. Well, I think the advice of meeting in public goes for both. Like I think especially for an app, I agree. It's like you do not have your first date in their home. Like go somewhere public.
And I think
as all of us did.
I know. But I have heard this happen before, that like women either invite someone to their home or a man asks to go to the home, and it's like it just doesn't feel safe in general.
Well, in Melissa's situation, you were the threat here. Okay, naked woman going into some random person's room, possibly robbing them.
You could just pee on them so they leave.
Naked bandit.
The naked bandit. Just pee on them so they exit your home immediately.
Here's something that I'm thankful for that night this happened to me, was that there was one girlfriend left standing at the end of the night. So she saw the guy, she saw what he looked like, she knew I was going home with him or took him home, and she could also check up on me the next day.
Yeah, the problem is that they don't have that many identifying information. Like hypothetically, had something gone wrong, like how would she, like, yes, she might have a recollection of him, but what else does she have?
That's
think
true,
even like, I know it's awkward to be like, what's your address? Let me give it to your friend. But like finding more of a subliminal way is one option. Or
you can't just ask to take a picture of their ID and then send it over to your friend. Airdrop everyone in this bar.
Or at least like getting their last name before you go. I mean, if you don't even know their last name, maybe that should be a sign that you shouldn't be running to their home.
What about their first name?
What about maybe
you made a bigger sign. So maybe
maybe
get first name, last name, and then just subtly tell your friend in the bathroom.
Yeah. Watch your drink. Always watch your drink.
Yeah.
We put ourselves in danger on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And somehow when we start drinking, it impairs our common sense with that stuff. So again, know your limit.
Yeah, maybe that's also an answer.
Yep.
Keep your alcohol level down.
I definitely
keep it in an
so.
open public place.
Yep.
Yeah, and always have your alcohol with you. At all times, especially in the bathroom. Take your drink.
It's like, what?
I know, that's what I thought.
Yeah, okay.
Like, bring it with you.
I think like what Melissa said, don't leave it unattended.
Yeah, keep your drink with you.
Can I buy you a drink? Don't worry, I've got my own. I brought my in this plastic water bottle.
This is why men are having it so difficult to know if they should buy drinks or not. Every girl's like, don't get near my drink.
Don't get near my drink.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I think that, Raquel, I hope that answers your question. If not, we apologize. Any other takeaways from these rock bottom stories? They're very entertaining in hindsight, yes, and we invite our listeners to share your rock bottom stories with us.
Yes.
And I'll give you a few examples, because it doesn't have to be a rock bottom story of you hooking up with someone. A guy friend of mine, his rock bottom moment was he was at a club when he was like in his early 40s, and he looked around and there was like a mirror behind him, and he suddenly saw himself in the mirror, and he thought, oh my God, I am that guy. That guy that I saw when I was in my 20s and 30s and thought, that guy doesn't belong here. I became that guy. And he was like that creepy older man wearing this polyester shirt and like weird pants. I don't know. He said, I became that guy that I was so fearful of or made fun of.
I remember Madison Perry we had as a guest as well in season 2, and he said the same thing. That was his moment that he's like, I'm too old to be doing this shit.
I don't think that's fair. As somebody who's older who likes to go to like shows and stuff, like I think as long as you feel comfortable with yourself, like
I don't think it's about an age thing. I think for him, he didn't want to be that person he had seen before.
Yeah.
Right.
And he had somehow became this sleazy guy who's picking up on these chicks at a club when he actually wanted a family.
Right.
You know?
If you're still having fun and enjoying yourself, that's one thing, I think. But I think there's many different rock bottom stories. We also had someone that talked about a travel accident that caused them to re-examine their whole life and how they dated. So there's many things out there. It can be the wide gamut, but we'd love to invite people to send them because we'd love to continue this in other seasons.
And most importantly, we want to know what you did after this rock bottom happened. What did you change about your life? What are the actions that you took and what did you learn from it? Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's wrap this up. Again, we invite you guys to tell your stories. We got to share these stories. Otherwise, we feel like we're just crazy on our own, right? Let's wrap this up.
Stay dateable.
Your action item for this week is to look at every experience as an opportunity to evolve. So here are a couple things you can do if something bad happens to you. One is validate your own feelings. Sulk in it. It's okay. It's okay to do that. The second step you should take is to jot down what you learned from it. And the third, which is the most important step, is to think about what to do next. What can you take action on? What can you do differently next time? Every time we look at these bad experiences as a way to learn, then the next time it may not happen again. And if it does, it will lessen how poorly you feel. This episode of Dateable is brought to you by 500 Brunches. 500 Brunches connects like-minded people with similar interests to meet in real life over brunch. You answer a quick questionnaire about your interests and how you spend your time, and then they'll match you in small groups of 6 to 8 at a brunch spot in San Francisco. Get a free entry into a brunch now by signing up at 500brunches.com and using the code DATEABLE. If you didn't know already, we have a revamped website with articles, videos, and content all about modern dating. You can also find our premium Why series, where we dissect, analyze, and offer solutions to some of the most common dating conundrums. We've had some great feedback about how actionable these episodes are, so check them out on our website or iTunes Music. Also, visit the site today to see the latest about coaching, where we connect you with Dateable-approved experts to help with everything from dating profile reviews, coaching, and even gathering real feedback about your dating style in a personalized and affordable way. To connect with us, visit dateablepodcast.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all under Dateable Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and auto-download the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast player so you never miss an episode.